Most people don't think much about what happens after death. They picture a funeral, a casket, a few tears, and then closure. But working in a funeral home? It's not just coffins and condolences. Sometimes, it's about holding the boundary between this world and whatever's clawing at the edges of it. My name is Thomas, and what I'm about to tell you really happened. I got a job at a funeral home in rural Ohio, and it came with rules. Strange ones. Terrifying ones. Ones I was told never to break. This is part one of my story, and I'm telling it because I broke the rules. My name's Thomas Klein. I'm 33 years old, and 2 years ago I was living out of my car, driving across Ohio trying to put my life back together after everything fell apart. Job, marriage, home. All gone. Then I saw the ad. It was posted on a flyer stuck to the window of a diner in a one-road town called Strickland, just outside Chillicothe. Read: caretaker needed, Holloway and Sons Funeral Home. Room and board provided. Night shifts only. Must be comfortable around the deceased. Inquire in person. I needed a job. Badly. And I'd slept in worse places than a funeral home. The interview. I showed up the next day. The building was old, Gothic almost. Dark brick, stained windows, the kind of place you don't see anymore. It sat at the end of a dead-end road next to a cornfield, flanked by woods that stretched for miles. Inside, everything was clean, almost too clean. Like it had been scrubbed down a little too often. I met the owner, Mr. Edwin Holloway, an old man who wore a black three-piece suit like he'd been born in it. Thin as bone. Hands like twigs. The interview was short. You'll handle after-hours tasks. Watching the bodies, answering the phones, making sure nothing disturbs the peace. I asked what that meant. He just said, "You'll be given a list of rules. Follow them and you'll be safe." The rules. On my first night, Edwin gave me a heavy ring of keys, a dusty guest room upstairs, and a piece of paper tucked into a leather folio. Inside was a list, typed, yellowed, and stamped with a wax seal. Read: Holloway and Sons Funeral Home, Night Caretaker Protocol. Effective 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. These rules are not optional. 1. Begin your shift by checking each viewing room. If any casket is open, shut it. If it refuses to shut, don't look inside. Leave the room. Lock the door. 2. Light the lantern in the embalming room at exactly 9:30 p.m. Never let it go out. Refill it only with the oil-marked property of Holloway. 3. You may hear weeping from the preparation room. Do not investigate. Do not knock. Ignore it completely. For at 11 p.m. sharp, walk through the chapel with the bell. Ring it once every 5 steps. No more, no less. If you skip a step or miss a ring, apologize out loud and start over. 5. Midnight is visitation hour. Lock every external door. If someone knocks during this hour, do not open the door, no matter who they say they are, especially if they use your name. 6. If any of the corpses move, you must return them to their original position. Do not panic. Do not speak to them. They are not listening. 7. Between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m., you may be offered a deal. Will sound tempting. It may involve a loved one. Refuse. Every time. 8. If you survive until sunrise, place the coin under the tongue of the last body you checked before going to bed. You'll know which one. I looked up from the page. This is some kind of weird tradition, right? Edwin didn't smile. No. It's what keeps the place in order. Then he turned and left. First night, 9:30 p.m. I didn't believe any of it. Not really. But I checked the viewing rooms. All caskets closed. Silent. Too silent. Then I went to the embalming room. It was a cold, sterile place that reeked of chemicals. On the counter sat a brass oil lantern already half full. I lit it at exactly 9:30. The moment the flame flickered to life, I heard something, a faint shuffle behind me. I turned. Nothing. But the room felt heavier, like the shadows had settled in to watch. The chapel bell. At 11 p.m. sharp, I entered the chapel. It was beautiful in a haunted sort of way. Rows of dark wood pews, stained glass windows, and a large iron bell hanging from a portable frame. I began the walk. 5 steps. Ring. 5 steps. Ring. The sound echoed, low and metallic, vibrating in my teeth. But on my third pass I stumbled. My foot landed crooked. I missed a step. The bell swung unevenly in my hand. The room went cold. I heard a low hiss behind me. Something brushing the pews. I remembered the rule: apologize out loud and start over. I muttered, "I'm sorry." The hiss stopped. Visitation hour. At midnight, I locked every door. I double-checked the mortuary garage, the back hallway, even the side entrance from the cremation chamber. I just sat down with a book when the knock came. 3 sharp raps. At the front door. I stood. Another knock. This time softer. Then a voice. "Tom, it's me. It's Dad." I froze. My father died 3 years ago in a car accident. "I just want to talk, son. Let me in." The door handle twisted. I backed away. Rule number 5. Do not open the door. No matter who they say they are. Especially if they use your name. I covered my ears and locked myself in the embalming room until 1 a.m. The knocking never stopped. But eventually, it turned into scratching. The corpse that moved. At 1:42 a.m., I returned to the viewing rooms. That's when I noticed something off. The woman in room C, an elderly woman who had passed in her sleep, was now sitting up. Her eyes were still closed, her hands folded neatly. But she was upright, as if someone had gently helped her sit. Rule number 6. Return them to their original position. Do not panic. It took everything in me to walk into that room. I pushed her gently back into the casket, straightened her shawl, closed the lid, and held it shut. It stayed closed. When I turned to leave, I saw something scratched into the back wall. For words. "You're not alone tonight." The deal. At 2:36 a.m. I heard music. Soft like an old radio. Frank Sinatra, I think. I followed it to the mortuary lounge. And there he was. A man in a black suit, sipping coffee at the staff table. No ID badge. No jacket. No car in the lot. He looked clean. Too clean. "Thomas," he said, "how long's it been since you saw your wife?" I didn't answer. I could fix that, you know. Bring her back. Just one night. Say the word. Rule number 7. It may involve a loved one. Refuse. Every time. I clenched my jaw. Said nothing. He smiled. Suit yourself. Then he blinked out of existence. The coin. At sunrise, I stood over the last body I'd checked. Room C. The woman who'd sat up. I reached into the folio Edwin gave me and pulled out the old silver coin that had come with the key ring. It had no markings. It felt heavy, cold. I placed it under her tongue. Her lips twitched. Then she smiled. When I left the embalming room, Edwin was waiting. "You made it? Not many do. Get some rest. Tonight will be harder. They've noticed you now." I wanted to quit. But something in me, something I didn't recognize, wanted to know what happened if I stayed. I should have left. Because on the second night there were new rules. And they weren't printed anymore. They were whispered. That was part 1 of my story working at Holloway & Sons. In part 2, the rules get stranger. The dead get louder. And I find out what the funeral home was really built to protect us from. Subscribe to Dark Horror Bytes, and remember, if you hear someone knocking after midnight, don't answer. In part 1, I told you how I got a job at a funeral home in rural Ohio, and how it came with rules. Not ordinary rules. Rules meant to keep something at bay. I followed them. At first. But the house doesn't just test obedience. It hunts for cracks. What I learned on the second night still keeps me awake. So let's start part 2. I didn't sleep well after that first shift. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the old woman's smile, cold, too wide. I saw the man who'd offered me my wife back. I heard my father's voice knocking on the door. But curiosity is a stronger drug than fear. I came back the next night. I shouldn't have, because that's when the rules changed. The new rules. The original rule sheet was gone from my room. In its place was a folded black envelope, sealed in wax. Inside, a fresh list, written in looping script on parchment. Only this time it wasn't typed. And it wasn't written in ink. It looked like it had been scrawled in blood. Holloway and Sons, Night 2 Additional Protocol. 1. If you hear whispering in a language you understand but have never learned, cover your ears immediately. Do not respond. 2. At 10:13 p.m., the coffin in room D will begin to knock. You may knock back, but only 3 times. If you knock 4, bury it. 3. At 11:45 p.m., you must stand at the foot of each casket and say, "You are not forgotten." Do not skip anyone. Do not say it twice. 4. If the embalming fluid turns black, stop everything. Shut off the lights. Whisper, "This is not your hour." 5. A child will appear at 2:22 a.m. She may cry. She may laugh. She may ask to go home. Do not answer her. Do not follow her. Above all, do not let her hand touch yours. 6. If a second coin appears, someone has broken a rule. Find them before 3:33 a.m. or they'll never leave. 7. If you wake up inside a coffin, it means you weren't the one working last night. The one who wants their turn back. That last one made me go cold. I folded the paper and stuffed it in my jacket. Then I began my second night. 10:13 p.m., the knocking coffin. Room D hadn't been used in years, according to Edwin. It was dim, lined with bookshelves and unused folding chairs. A single coffin rested on a pedestal in the center. No name, no flowers, no photo. Just polished mahogany and silence. Until the knocking started. 3 slow knocks. From inside. I froze in the doorway, the list crumpling in my hand. Then, silence. Rule said I could knock back, 3 times. I raised my hand and tapped. Once. Twice. 3 times. The silence returned. But then a voice from behind the door whispered, "4 is freedom." I didn't knock again. 11:45 p.m., you are not forgotten. The main chapel held 5 caskets for the next morning services. I stood at each one and whispered the phrase, "You are not forgotten." The first 3, no issue. The 4th, though, when I spoke, I swear I saw the man's lips twitch. Just once. Just enough. The last casket held a young man, maybe 20, pale hair slicked back, military uniform. I whispered the phrase. His mouth opened, and something like dust spilled from it onto the satin lining. I slammed the lid shut. When I turned around, all 5 caskets were now closed. I'd left them open. 1:37 a.m. I was checking the embalming supplies when I noticed the main bottle of fluid had darkened. It wasn't just black, it looked like tar. Thick, bubbling at the surface like it breathed. Rule said, "Shut off the lights." Whisper, "This is not your hour." I flicked the lights off. The whole room plunged into darkness. I whispered the phrase. For several seconds nothing happened. Then, whispering. Not from me. Voices chittered like insects circling my head, crawling over my skin. Then, complete silence. When I turned the lights back on, the bottle was empty, and the floor beneath it was wet. 2:22 a.m. I heard bare feet pattering down the hallway. I stepped out and there she was, a little girl, maybe 7, wearing a white burial gown, eyes too large for her face. She smiled. "I'm cold." I said nothing. "Will you walk me home?" I shook my head. Her eyes darkened and she started laughing. But it was wrong. It looped, glitched like a broken cassette. She reached for my hand. I backed into a room and slammed the door. I heard scratching, then whispers. "You said it wrong." At 3:12 a.m., I went to check the embalming table. There were now 2 silver coins on the tray. Rule 6. If a second coin appears, someone has broken a rule. But I was the only one on shift. Wasn't I? I searched every room, every hallway, whispering hello under my breath. In the garage, I found a light on that I hadn't touched. Inside, a man, identical to me, dressed in my clothes, bleeding from his nose, mouth sewn shut. He pointed at me, then pointed down. At his feet, a third coin. I backed away. When I looked again, he was gone. 4:07 a.m. I woke up gasping, choking on pitch black air. Everything was tight, cramped. I tried to move. My hands scraped satin lining. My knees hit polished wood. I was inside a coffin. I screamed, slammed my fists against the lid. No one came. I remembered Rule 7. If you wake up inside a coffin, it means you weren't the one working last night. Then who was? Suddenly a knock. 3 slow raps from the outside. Then the lid opened, and I saw myself, grinning, eyes all black, mouthing the words. "It's my shift now." I don't remember how I escaped. I woke up in my bed upstairs, covered in dirt and embalming fluid. The morning sun poured through the window. A coin sat on my pillow. Edwin was waiting downstairs. "It's begun," he said. "They've noticed you." I told him about the duplicate, about the rules changing. He nodded, pale. "There's a reason we rotate caretakers. The house gets hungry for familiarity. But it's grown attached too." That night, the envelope returned. But this time it was empty. No new rules. Just a torn piece of funeral parchment with a single handwritten line. "The third night has no rules. Only choices." I don't know what that means, but I think I'm going to find out. That was part 2 of my story working at Holloway & Sons Funeral Home. In part 3, the rules vanish, and I finally learn what the house is hiding beneath the floorboards. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you ever wake up inside a coffin, don't knock back. In part 1 I followed the rules. In part 2 they changed. And now, there are none. This is the final night I spent inside Holloway & Sons Funeral Home. A night with no rules, only consequences. And the choice I had to make will haunt me forever. So here is the ending part of this story. Let's start. I thought I'd reached the end. After that second night, the duplicate version of me, the coffin trap, the child with the broken laugh, I was ready to quit. But Edwin said something I can't forget. The third night is when the house makes its choice. And when you make yours. There were no written rules this time. Just a single note. The third night has no rules. Only choices. I arrived early. The house felt different, quieter but heavier. Like the walls were waiting. No wind. No power flickers. No signs of life. Or death. Edwin wasn't in his office. His coat still hung on the hook. But the desk was cleared. No paperwork. No funeral prep schedules. Nothing. Even the folio of rules was gone. Only the silver coin remained, placed dead center on the desk, like a final offering. I pocketed it and stepped into the hallway. 9 p.m. The grandfather clock in the front lobby always chimed. But tonight it didn't. Instead, the second hand ticked forward, then backward, then forward again, and stopped. 9 p.m. became eternal. No minutes passed. No hours ticked by. Just 9 o'clock. Forever. I checked my phone. Battery dead. Screen black. I went to the power box. Every breaker had melted. Then, from the embalming room, I heard the coin hit the floor. There was a door at the base of the stairwell. It had never opened before. I assumed it was a locked storage room, maybe a storm cellar. But now it stood wide open. Beyond it, stairs. Stone. Descending into cold, wet darkness. And a faint orange glow at the bottom. I didn't want to go. But the house pulled at me. The same way dreams drag you toward things you don't want to see. I descended. The air thickened as I went down. Smelled of rot and candle wax. The space opened into a root cellar, lined with stone shelves filled not with produce, but bones. Hundreds. Thousands. Small. Child-sized. Adult. Animal. Some too big for either. In the center of the room sat a mirror, suspended in a frame of what looked like twisted spinal cords. I saw myself in it, except my reflection was younger, smiling. Then it whispered, "Do you want to understand? Step through." The mirror rippled, and I stepped. I emerged in a place that looked almost like the funeral home, but wrong. The walls breathed. The windows blinked. The floor whispered names I'd buried deep. I walked past familiar rooms twisted in alien ways. The chapel was upside down. The embalming table had a heartbeat. The viewing room caskets were full, but with breathing people. They banged on the lids, eyes wide through glass slits, mouths gagged with wax. Then I saw Edwin. But not as I knew him. The truth of Edwin Holloway. He was younger here. Middle-aged, wearing butcher's gloves, kneeling beside a shallow pit in a room of mirrors. Inside the pit, a mass of shifting black tendrils, blinking yellow eyes, and exposed, grinning teeth. He was whispering to it, feeding it coins, bones, names. It whispered back. 3 caretakers, 3 nights. The one who stays becomes the house. Edwin turned, looked right at me. "You've made it farther than most," he said. "Now it's your turn to feed it." He handed me a box. Inside were pictures, photos of me, my wife, my mother. Old, yellowed, faded. I looked up. "Choose," he said. The pit waited. It gnashed its teeth, licking invisible lips with a tongue made of keys. "You can feed it your past," Edwin said. "Let go of everything. You'll forget your pain. You'll become the new guardian. No more rules. No more fear. Just duty. Or you can walk away. But it won't forget. And it'll keep knocking." Behind me the mirror shimmered. The exit. I held the box. Inside my life flickered. Memories of laughter, pain, voices, tears. I thought of my wife. And I chose. I walked to the pit. I dropped the box in. The tendrils hissed, shivered, recoiled, then vanished, sucked into the earth like a bad dream dissolving. The mirror behind me shattered. Edwin sighed. "Good. Now kneel." I did. He reached into his chest and pulled out his own coin, engraved now with hundreds of faces screaming in silence. He placed it on my tongue. The last thing I remember was the taste of iron and dust. Then, blackness. I woke in my room. Dawn outside. But Edwin was gone. No sign he ever existed. His office was empty. But the folio was back on the desk. Fresh paper. New ink. The first line read, "Caretaker Protocol, revised June 2025. And beneath it, 1. Never forget who you were. The house will try to make you." I stared at my reflection in the glass of the embalming cabinet, and it stared back, not smiling, just watching, waiting. That was the final part of my story working at Holloway and Sons Funeral Home. I've come to accept something now. The house doesn't need rules. The house is the rule. And if you're ever driving through Ohio and see an old Gothic building by the cornfield, don't stop. And if you do, don't apply for the night shift. Because some jobs don't let you quit. They let you inherit. Subscribe to Dark Horror Bytes. And remember, if a door opens where there wasn't one before, don't step through. Stay good and stay safe from these types of jobs.